Okay, so I think we met on Tuesday. We discussed about load balancing using the force concept. So we found that curved cables, there was a distributed load coming on them, and for cables with sharp angles, point loads occur at that sharp corner, and load balancing happened, and the beam was in a state of pure compression, and the curvature was also perfectly straight. So even in spite of the external loads, the beam was not sagging. Okay. So we will now discuss about loss of pre-stress. That means when the steel tendons, when you apply that hydraulic jack force, and after that, that hydraulic jack force, whatever you applied, that gets reduced. And there are many causes for it. One of the cause is that there is elastic shortening of concrete. So this was what we discussed in over the past 2 3 lectures. Lecture 2 3 and 4 we are discussing this, and there are some more causes are there. We will discuss them maybe from on Monday. But today we'll discuss about that elastic shortening of concrete and how it causes the loss of pre-stress. So we have here the second figure, this one. We have this pre-stressed concrete beam, and we have that cable, uh, and this cable was stressed to a load of P naught through hydraulic jack force, and then we have poured that concrete. After that, we remove the concrete has gained strength, and then we remove the hydraulic jack force. And during that, and what happens is both the cable and the concrete will shrink, and what will happen? The concrete will be in a state of compression, and there will be loss of stress in the cable. The because initially it was strained this much, and then there is a decrease in the strain, and as a result there will be a loss of strain and loss of stress. So we have a relation. The loss of the gain in compressive strain in concrete is equal to the gain in loss in tensile strain in steel. Okay, so that is this relation. Loss in tensile strain in steel is a gain in compressive strain in concrete. This is for concentric tendons, which you have done some derivations. For eccentric tendons, we have similar thing, but here we'll be looking at the concrete at the level of steel. So at the level of steel, there will be gain in compressive strain in concrete, and as a result, uh, this cable will have a shorter length, and as a result, there is a loss of strain in the cable and the loss of corresponding loss of stress. So the loss of pre-stress is P naught, P hat naught minus P naught, and this is due to the elastic shortening of concrete. And there are many other losses. There are few losses. We will discuss that in detail later. So in today's class, we will be looking into this loss of stress due to elastic shortening of concrete. So this was for a pre-tensioning system. So in pre-tensioning, we first tension the tendon and then we pour the concrete. There is another type of system which we know, that is the post tensioning. So in post tensioning, what we have is we have the concrete beam which is made with a duct. Duct means a hole, a cylindrical hole is made into the concrete, and then after the concrete has gained strength and all, then we pass the tendon through that duct, and this is the tendon which will pass through the duct hole, and at one end we anchor that uh, tendon, and from the other end, this configuration is a representation of hydraulic jack. So through a hydraulic jack, we apply force on this tendon. So we pull the tendon, and as we pull it, the hydraulic jack force will also apply a corresponding compressive strain. Okay, so as it's like you are trying to pull the wire, and your hands are pulling the wire, and your legs are pushing the concrete. Okay, so something like that. So if you invert this figure and think of it, then it's like someone is pulling the wire, and your legs are applying a reaction onto the concrete. So the legs will compress the concrete, and your hands will pull this pull this bar. Okay, so if you are doing like that, what will happen is, as as you keep applying that load, the concrete also, the tendon will increase, the strain in tendon will increase, and also the compressive strain in concrete will also increase simultaneously. Both will happen simultaneously. Okay, so that is represented by this equation. So whatever gain in steel, whatever tensile strain is happening in steel, and equal compressive strain is also happening in concrete. So both the tensile strain and the compressive strain happen simultaneously. As a result, during this post-tensioning process, there is no loss of pre-stress. So whatever hydraulic jerk force is being applied, that will be equal to the force which has been transferred to the concrete. Okay. So because there will be no loss of pre-stress due to elastic shortening for this case in post-tensioning. However, there is a small issue. What is the issue? Suppose if you do the post-tensioning in a sequential manner. So we have here one duct hole and then there is a second duct hole. So first you apply, first in the first duct hole you put the tendon and then you apply that hydraulic jack force. As a result, there will be no loss of pre-stress. And then what you do after you put the tendon, then you place the second tendon and then you apply the hydraulic jack force. So in that scenario, there will be no loss of pre-stress in cable 2, but there will be loss of pre-stress in cable 1. And you can calculate the loss of pre-stress in cable 1 using this relation. So when the first cable is post-tension, so P01 will be same as P01. Whatever hydraulic jack force is applying, the same force will come onto the tendon after transfer. So there is no loss of pre-stress in cable 1. Then next step, you do post-tension the cable 2. Then there is no loss of pre-stress in cable 2, but however, in cable 1, there is this loss, which is given as minus m sigma CS1 AS1. So which is a sigma CS1 or 2 is the stress in concrete at the level of steel due to the post tension force which is coming here. Okay, so whatever I'm saying now, I think most of you will not follow. So I have to explain it. So I'm explaining it in the next coming slide in a step-by-step manner. So what is that? What I'm trying to say is, first step where cable 1 is post tension. So we have our beam, our neutral axis. This is duct hole 1. The dashed line represents duct hole 1 and this dashed line represents duct hole 2. So the beam is cast. Then we place our tendon into the duct hole and then we anchor the tendon here on the left edge, and on the right edge we apply the hydraulic jack force. So when you are applying the hydraulic jack force, simultaneously the concrete is being compressed. Okay, so elastic shortening is happening during the application of the hydraulic jack force. So whatever P01 you are applying, that will be equal to the force which will be transferred to the tendon and to the concrete. Okay, so force after transfer will be P subscript O1. Okay, so whatever tensile strain in steel is also the compressive strain in concrete, and we get P01, which is a hydraulic jack force, which is also equal to P01, P subscript 1. Okay, so I'm indicating 1 here just to show that cable 1, whatever this is a stress in cable 1 due to the force applied by the hydraulic jack force at 1. Okay, so if you look at the cross section, this duct hole is empty, and the duct hole 1, you have the cable 1. So here there is no loss of pre-stress in this cable 1 when we are applying the hydraulic jack force, because simultaneously both are happening at one time. The shortening is happening and the force in tendon is also increasing at one time. Next step is you put the cable 2 into the duct hole 2. You anchor the cable 2 at one end, and at the right edge you start applying the hydraulic jack force. So when you start applying the hydraulic jack force, then here it's like you are pulling the tendon and there is a shrinking in the concrete simultaneously. So when you keep increasing the load from 0 to say P02, the concrete also will compress, and there is no loss of pre-stress in cable 2. Okay, so that is what I'm showing here. Delta P2 steel is also delta P2 concrete, and so whatever hydraulic jack force we are applying, that is transferred, and same hydraulic jack force will be in the cable 1 after elastic shortening also. So P02, P hat 2 is also P02 comma 2. Okay. So here there is no loss of pre-stress in cable 2. However, what happens in cable 1? So what happens in cable 1 is, under the action of that hydraulic jack force, the beam undergoes additional hogging. So the beam will lift up additionally some more, and the concrete at the level of cable 1, it undergoes additional compression. So whatever concrete is at this level, so at this level there is some concrete, and that will undergo additional compression, and this compressive strain is the loss in tensile strain in cable 1. Okay, whatever extra compression which the concrete is undergoing there, that is equal to the loss in tensile strain in cable 1. So we can find out what is the additional stress in concrete at the level of cable 1 due to the force which is coming from the cable 2. That we can get. So we have P02 being applied here. We can calculate the eccentricity with respect to the neutral axis. Then we know what is the stress at this level. It will be P02 by A plus P02E, that is My by I. Okay, Y will be this distance of the level 1 from the neutral axis. So here it will produce a compression. So both the P0A by A and My by I will be producing compression at this level. So we can find that here. So stress in concrete at the level of steel due to the force which is coming due to the force applied in cable 2, that is equal to P02 by A plus My by I. So M is P02 times E2. E2 is the eccentricity of cable 1 with the cable 2 with respect to the neutral axis. So this is P by I neutral axis, and the distance of the cable 1 from the neutral axis is Y neutral axis minus YS1. Okay, and this will be a compressive stress. So we can find out what is the compressive stress produced in cable 1 due to the force which is coming from cable 2. Okay, and once you know the compressive stress, we can find out what is the additional this is a additional stress which is coming, and we can find out what is the additional strain in concrete. So epsilon will be sigma by Young's modulus of concrete. So once you know the additional strain in concrete, then we can find out what is the loss of strain in cable 1. Loss of strain in cable 1 is equal to the additional compressive strain which is coming in concrete at that level, at the level 1. So that will be sigma CS1 by EC. And then we can find out what is the loss of stress in cable 1. We simply multiply this with this strain with the Young's modulus of steel. So stress in steel in cable 1, that is loss of stress in steel in cable 1 due to the load applied at cable 2 will be ES times delta strain. So ES by EC times sigma in concrete at the cable 1 level due to the load applied in cable 2. So it will be M times sigma CS1 comma 2. So ES by EC is modular ratio. So we get M times that value. So we can multiply the loss of stress with the area, we get the loss of force in the cable 1. So AS times delta sigma CS1, we get AS into M sigma CS1 comma 2. And we can find out what is the loss of force. So initial force will be P01 due to the force hydraulic jack force applied at level 1 minus delta P12, and minus delta P12 is this value M sigma CS12 times AS. Okay, where sigma CS12 we have defined it as P0 by A plus P0 into eccentricity by, that is My by I. Okay, so this is the explanation for that short thing. Usually all this is not given in the explained in the textbook in detail. They'll just write they will write this directly. So I had to explain it more in detail through these figures. Okay, so what we can do now is we can solve a problem for pre-tension element. So we can find out what is the loss of pre-stress when so here a pre-stressed concrete sleeper which was produced by the pre-tensioning method has a rectangular cross section of dimensions 300 millimeters, that is the width, and 250 millimeters height. So it is pre-stressed with 9 numbers of straight 7 millimeter wires at 0.8 times the ultimate stress of 1570 Newton megapascal. So modular ratio M is 6, and you are asked to estimate the percentage loss of stress due to the elastic deformation of concrete. So here we have that sleeper, and the dimensions B is 300, height is 250. So at level 1, this is the bottom level, that we say it as level 1. There are 5 steel bars, and the top layer, level 2, there are 4 tendons. So level 1 is at 40 millimeters from the bottom, and level 2 is at 40 millimeters from the top. And number of, let's indicate these 5 bars by N1. So N1 is equal to 5. And let's indicate this top level number by N2, and N2 is equal to 4. So we are given the pre-stress initially applied through the hydraulic jack, that is given as sigma naught S, which is 0.8 times 1570. Okay, so 0.8 into 1570 is 1256 megapascal. And then we are given the diameter of these wires, which is 7 millimeters, and then the modular ratio M, which is 6. So with this information, we want to find what is the percentage loss of stress due to the elastic deformation in concrete. So what we are doing is we are applying a hydraulic jack force of this much amount on those wires. Then concrete is poured, and once concrete is poured, what will happen is concrete will gain strength, and then we cut the hydraulic jack forces. We remove the hydraulic jack force, then the beam will bend. It will probably go into hogging moment. There will be some hogging producing the sleeper, but simultaneously there will be a loss of pre-stress. Okay, so we want to find what is that loss of pre-stress. The steps we follow are like this. First step is we will find out the effective section properties of the sleeper, of that cross section. So effective area, then we find the location of the neutral axis of that effective area, then moment of inertia about the neutral axis of that area. So first we find that effective section properties. Second step is there are 9 bars in the cross section. So those 9 bars, if you look at the beam, that length of the beam, those 9 bars, 4 are acting at the top level, and 5 are acting at the bottom level. So these will produce some compressive forces at level 1 and level 2. At the top level, there will be some compressive force, and the bottom level, there is compressive force. So we want to find where the centroid, where the resultant of these 4 forces and the 5 forces will be there. We want to find that resultant. That resultant we denoted by P naught, and we want to find the y-intercept of it. Why we do that? So that we can get that force coupled system about the neutral axis, and then we can apply that formula P by A plus My by I. Okay, so we need to find the resultant of those tendon forces. Next step we will do is, once we found the resultant and all, then we can calculate stress in the concrete at the level 1 and stress in the concrete at level 2. So that is the compressive stress we will find out. And once you find the compressive stress in level 1 and level 2, we can find out the loss of pre-stress in the steel. So we just multiply this value with M, modular ratio, M times sigma CS1, we get delta sigma S1. And we want to find loss of pre-stress at level 2, we simply multiply this sigma CS2 with M, modular ratio, and we get the loss of pre-stress at level 2. So that we can combine that, multiply with the area, and find the total loss of pre-stress. Okay, so this is the procedure, and each step we will show, will do that. So first step is finding the effective section properties. So we have our rectangular cross section, and effective, so here we have 4 bars. So we are removing those 4 bars and multiplying with modular ratio, and there are some holes created in those, when you remove those bars, there are some holes. So we put those concrete area back into that. So we'll get M minus 1 times area of steel at the level 2, that is N2 times AS. And similarly at level 1, we remove those bars and multiply with M times N1 AS, and there will be some holes there. So we put back that concrete back. So we are subtracting minus 1 N1 AS. So we'll get M minus 1 N1 AS. And we have that center of gravity of this rectangular cross section. It lies at h by 2. It lies at yg is equal to h by 2. So yeah, here N1 is 5. So level 1, there are 5 bars. Level 2, there are 4 bars. The total area at level 1 is N1 AS. Total area at level 2 is N2 AS of the steel. So we can do the calculation here. H is 250, YS1 is 40, and YS2 will be 210, 250 minus 40, which is 210. YG is H by 2, and 250 by 2 is 125. Area of steel is diameter is 7 millimeter square, 7 millimeter. So we get pi by 4 into 7 square, which is 38.5 millimeter square. So first thing we'll do is we calculate the effective area. Effective area is the total area. So it will be BH, area of the rectangle, plus the this transformed area. So m minus 1 into n1 plus n2 times AS. So we get 300 into 250 plus 6 minus 1. N1 is 5 and N2 is 4, and pi by 4 into 7 square. So we're getting around 76731 millimeter square. Now we can find out the what is the where is the neutral axis located. So we'll use the formula N1Y1 A1Y1 plus A2Y2 by A1 plus A2. So here for the rectangular cross section we have BH into the YG, it will be H by 2, and for the level 1 steel M minus 1 N1 AS into YS1 and M minus 1 N2 AS into YS2 by the total area, effective area, that is A effective. So we can substitute the numbers BH square by 2, it is 300 into 250 square by 2, and 6 minus 1 into 5 into 38.5 into 40, and 6 minus 1 into 4 into 38.5 into 210 by the 76731, which is effective area. So we're getting around 124.79. So it is almost same. 125 and 124.7 almost near. Then we can calculate the this neutral axis moment of inertia over the neutral axis. So we have BH cube by 12. We will use the parallel axis theorem. So the centroid is not coinciding with the neutral axis for the rectangle. So BH cube by 12 plus area into y neutral axis minus YG. So BH into y neutral axis minus YG square. And then for the steel areas, we'll just multiply the distance of the steel level from the neutral axis level whole square. So m minus 1 n1 as into ys1 minus y effective neutral axis square. And here m minus 1 n2 as into ys2 minus y neutral axis effective square. So if you put in all the numbers, yeah. So here ys1 is 40. So 40 minus 124.79 square, and here ys2 is 210. We get, if you put all those numbers, we're getting this number. Okay. So we have found the effective section properties. So the next step will be calculating the resulting force P naught, which is just coming onto the tendons, and we'll find that. I'll take a small break and come back. Okay, so next step is finding the resultant force of the tendons. Here we have that length of the beam. This is the neutral axis, and we have the 5 bars located at this level, and 4 bars located at this level, and the pre-stress force is P01 at level 1. Means sum of all the forces in the, if you multiply the F times sigma times area for all, you will get P01, and here you can find out what is the sigma times area, you will get P02. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to find what is the resultant of this pre-stress force, and where does the pre-stress force lie with respect to the neutral axis. Okay, so we want to find that. So the way to do that is, we in engineering mechanics, we know the if you want to find the system, if you have a system of parallel forces, and we want to find where is the resultant, we can use that formula P1 y1 plus P2 y2 by P1 plus P2. Then we'll get the y-intercept. Okay, so let's calculate first P01. So area of steel at level 1, it is N1 times AS times sigma naught S. Okay. So N1 is 5 into area of steel is, each steel bar is 38.5 into the applied stress 1256. So you're getting 241.8. And here P02 is N2 AS into sigma naught S. So it will be 4 into 38.5 into 1256. So it is 193.4. Okay. And YS1 is 40. YS2 is 250 minus 40, which is 210. Okay. So sum of these forces, P01 plus P02, we get as 435.2 kilonewton. So we add these two numbers, we get 435.2 kilonewton. And then we can find out what is the y-intercept of the resultant. So P1y1 plus P2y2 by P1 plus P2. So 241.8 into 40 and 193.4 into 210 by 435.2. We are getting around 115.6. So this is the distance of the resultant from the bottom edge, and we want to find what is the eccentricity with respect to the neutral axis. So y neutral axis is 124.8. So we subtract y neutral axis minus ys, we get the eccentricity, which is 9.2. So if you look at that figure, we can redraw the figure. We'll show, instead of P01 and P02, we'll show a single force, and that single force is the resultant. That resultant value is P0, and it is lying at a distance of 115.6 from the bottom, and y neutral axis is 124. So the difference is eccentricity, and that eccentricity is 9.2. So 124, that is the distance of the neutral axis from the bottom, minus 115, that is distance of this resultant force from the bottom of the beam. So it is coming at 9.2. So E value is 9.2. So what is the effect of this P0, which is acting below the neutral axis? So what it will do, it will produce a compressive force and it will produce a bending moment. Okay, so this is a compressive force, and there is this couple. So we are transferring this P0 to this neutral axis location. So we have this compressive force acting at the neutral axis, and we have a corresponding couple P0E, which is acting in the clockwise manner. So this P0, which is acting at the neutral axis, will produce a pure compression in the beam. So at any point, it will produce a compressive force P0 by A, which A refers to A effective. And this bending moment, what it will happen is it will lift the beam up, and that is a hogging, and the top fiber will go into tension and bottom fiber will go into compression. So all the points above the neutral axis will have tension due to this moment, P0E, and all the points below the neutral axis will have compression due to this moment. Okay. So let's identify a point at a distance of y0 from the bottom, and this is the point which is indicated by the cross mark, and we can find out what is the stress at that point due to this axial load P0, which is acting at the neutral axis, and due to the bending moment P0E, which is coming, okay, which is a clockwise bending moment. So we can find out that, so stress in the concrete at a distance y0 is P0 by A effective, that is due to the axial load. So P0 by A effective, and that is a compressive force, and we have My by I. So we calculate the sigma due to bending is M moment times Y by I neutral axis. So here M value is P0E, and Y distance is from the neutral axis, so Y0 minus Y effective, Y0 minus Y neutral axis. So we are finding out this distance of that point from the neutral axis. So it is Y0 minus Y neutral axis. And what is happening, it is lying above the neutral axis, the point is lying, so it will produce a tension force. So we are what we are writing is a compressive stress, so we will have to put a minus sign here. So P0 by A effective minus My by I. Okay, so because this is bending moment is lifting the beam up, the top fiber, the points above the neutral axis will be in tension. Okay, so we are having that negative sign. So with this information, we can calculate what is the stress in concrete at level 1 and stress in concrete at level 2. Okay, so let's do that. What is the stress in concrete at level 1? So y is equal to ys1, which is 40. So we substitute that y0, instead of y0, we put ys1. So P0 by A effective minus P0E by I into ys1 minus y effective. So P0 is 435 kilonewton. We multiply with 10 power 3 Newton, make it into Newton. and A effective is 76731 millimeter square. And here P naught again 435 kilonewton. E value is 9.2. I is 403.133 into 10 power 6 millimeter power 4. And this is 40 minus 124.79. So 40 minus 124.79 will get a negative value, and this negative and this negative will become positive, and we get this stress is 5.6 and this bending stress is plus 0.85. So what does it mean? It means that the steel level 1 is lying below the neutral axis. So the bending moment produces a compressive stress below the neutral axis. So it is okay. So it is plus 0.85. So the compressive stress for all points below the neutral axis is this bending moment will produce a compressive stress. So it is plus 0.85. So we get around 6.45. Okay. Now we want to find what is the stress produced in the concrete at the level 2. So instead of y0, we put ys2 here. So ys2 is 210. So 210 minus y neutral axis is 124.79. So here again, this value is positive, and we get minus 0.85. If we do this calculation, we get minus 0.85. So what does minus 0.85 mean? It means it is a tensile stress. Okay, we are calculating only compressive stress here. So this is a tensile stress, and the point is lying above the neutral axis. So this hogging moment will produce a tension there. So we are having this minus 0.85. So the stress at that level will be 5.6 minus 0.85, which is 4.75. So if you see here, the bottom level, the steel fibers which are below the neutral axis are having a higher stress, compressive stress value compared to the steel fibers lying above the neutral axis, because the bending moment will produce additional compression for the bottom level fibers. Okay. And the bending moment is producing tension, so obviously that value will go down. So we have found the stresses in concrete at the level of steel. So level 1 and level 2. So once you know the stresses in concrete at that level, we can find out the loss of stress in the steel. So loss of stress is delta sigma S1 at level 1. It will be modular ratio times sigma C by S1. So we get 6 into 6.45, which is 38.7. And we can find out what is the loss of force in the steel. So we multiply delta sigma S1 with the area of steel at level 1. So area of steel at level 1 is N1AS. So N1AS into delta sigma S1. So 5 into 38.5 into 38.7, we get 7.45 kilonewton. Similarly, loss of stress at level 2 will be M times stress in concrete at level 2. So 6 into 4.75, we get 28.5 Newton per millimeter square. And we get delta P2 as N2A2 delta sigma H2. So that is area of steel at level 2 times loss of stress. So we are getting around 4.39. So we can add up delta P1 and delta P2. We get around 11.84. So the percentage loss will be delta P by initial hydraulic jack force which is applied into 100. So 11.84 by 435.2 into 100. So we're getting 2.62%. Okay, so this is for pre-tension member. And so the major steps are this one. First you find the effective section properties, then you find the A effective, Y neutral axis, location of the neutral axis, then moment of inertia about the neutral axis. Then you find the resultant force of the tendons, and then we find out the y-intercept by P1 Y1 plus P2 Y2 by Y1 P1 plus P2. Once you know that, then we can find out the eccentricity of that resultant force with respect to the neutral axis, and then we can write a force coupled system which will produce stress at level 1 and stress at level 2. So we can find out the stress in concrete at the two levels, and once we know that, we can find out loss of stress, free stress at those two levels. That is the methodology here. This is for pre-tension system. And post-tension system, we follow this approach. In post-tension systems, we will be using gross sectional properties, and we have to account for the loss of account for the duct holes. So because there is a hole, we have to remove that area, and then we have to find out what is the net area. Okay, so we will solve this example for post-tension system in next class. So today's class we can conclude now.